Allow me to introduce you to ADAMA.
Atlanta is the Black Mecca. We know this already. We are home to people of African descent and the epicenter of arts and culture.
But where can you go to experience Black art and culture, illuminating the depth and breadth of the African diaspora?
Launched in March 2020 as a museum without walls, ADAMA quickly emerged as a space that is already engaged in communities around the world.
The best part about being a founding member of ADAMA
is knowing that I'm part of making history.
By contributing to ADAMA, you're joining a global community of dreamers and builders,
bringing forth a world-class museum
that highlights the Black global experience.
And it's all happening here.
Right here.
Right here.
Right here, right now.
Right here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Join us.
Give.
And get involved.
ADAMA.
Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, wherever you are tuned in. I'm currently here in New York City. I'm Chantel and I'm going to be the moderator on today's art salon. So just a quick introduction. I'm an educator, a writer, an art collector, and an independent curator. I'm usually based in Accra, Ghana. I'm in New York at the moment because I'm curating an exhibition that is opening this Tuesday. So if you're in the city, make sure you come down and check it out. But yeah, more about me. So I founded an art consultancy, and it's called DēpART. And you know, the main agenda with that is to be able to support creatives and artists working on the African continent, being able to, you know, bridge the gap between their home studios in Africa, the Caribbean, and the international market, where a lot of them are exhibiting and selling their work. So that's also kind of, you know, forming the basis of this conversation today, which is around how do we create, you know, an African-centered kind of Black-led art ecosystem, and you know, what does that look like, and is it something that is really necessary? So, you know, to kind of dive into that conversation, I've got two guests. They are two very amazing artists and friends of mine who are both based on the African continent. They're both practicing and living there, but in the last couple of years, their work has been really hot on the international market. They've been selling, you know, throughout the US, throughout Europe, and parts of Asia, which is amazing. But, you know, with all of that international kind of exposure, there's some questions that come with that. So that's what we're going to dive into with this. And I guess let's start by introducing Reggie and Kaloki.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear anything. I don't know what's going on.
Can you hear me now?
I'm not sure if you can hear me. Oh, can you hear me? Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm Reggie Khumalo, originally from South Africa, but currently based in Zanzibar, Tanzania, a small island. So yeah, I've been traveling across Africa on a motorbike from South Africa all the way to Egypt. And as I've traveled across, I've made art, I've done paintings, and with that, I have, with the process from my work, I've been able to take kids across, take kids to university, take kids to build schools, extra classrooms, feed kids for the year, and so on. And yeah, so my work is really all about the philosophy of Ubuntu, which is a Nguni term, or should I say a South African, yeah, maybe Nguni term. Yeah, let me keep it a Bantu term for I am because you are. It's how we look at life. Like I cannot be okay if you're not okay, and you cannot be okay if I'm not okay. So it includes everyone, and that's the one philosophy that I've been trying to spread through my work. And what I've found is that women are in the forefront of this, and they are the keepers of this, because men usually whatever opportunities they get, they move on, but women stay with the problems, they stay with the keys, they and they share and so on. So that's why you find most of my work is really about women. I want to give that platform to highlight what they've been doing and what they continue doing. And I'm saying they are the keepers of blackness. They are the keepers of Ubuntu.
Great. So Reggie, I have a question for you.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So Reggie, I'm just gonna type the question in the chat.
I don't know what's going on now.
I think you have your sound off on your phone. So whilst Reggie's trying to sort out his sound, what I want to do is just kind of give you a bit more of a breakdown on what I mean by this, like African-centered, Black-led kind of art ecosystem, and in terms of like how I see that and what I view that to be, and why I believe that something like that is necessary. So as I said quite early on in the conversation, there's been this explosion of African artists, Black artists selling on an international level in the art market. And the art market for many, many years has been very Eurocentric. I think we can all, agree on that. And, as Black people, as Africans, Caribbeans, people in the diaspora, I just want to probe this question. With us, so many of us creating, do we think it's necessary for us to have a system whereby the galleries are Black owned or African owned or on African soil?
There's no sound.
And have Black collectors, Black curators, and how does that, and how will that benefit us, and what does that look like? So that are the main kind of questions that I want to pose. Let's just see if Kaloki is in the live, because I know just before he was rushing to get back home with his kids. So Kaloki is actually based in Nairobi, Kenya. And one of the reasons why I brought him onto the call today, and also Reggie.
I'm back.
Hey, right, brilliant. I didn't want to take the limelight, but you couldn't sort out your sound. So, I had to.
Okay, cool. I'm back.
You are back. Excellent. Reggie, right. So I was just basically explaining to the family out there why it is that, I wanted to pose these questions around this African-centered, Black-led art ecosystem. And, I'm going to pose a question to you to kind of get it started, because your work has been selling really well internationally. You had solo show in London, you have collectors throughout Asia, throughout Europe, and throughout the US. I just want to, before we kind of dive really in, kind of explain your experience of being in that international market, which is generally quite Eurocentric. What's your experience of that art industry?
I mean, it's been like a try and error basically, but like also at the same time, I think honesty has been the key. And I found that like a lot of, because I think I'm not collected by just anyone who's just a collector, I think I'm collected by people that you'll not really hear of or so on, and I think it's because there's this, I'm not saying that anyone who's not collecting me is not honest in a sense, but like I think my work sometimes really is too honest, or in a sense that it's too Black, if I may say, and I find that like a lot of people miss that. It goes over their heads, and you know, which worried me for a while. But like I realized that like with art, those that are for you, that are for you, and those that are not, they're not for you. It's okay too. You know what I'm trying to say? So I think the ecosystem for me right now, you know, being African centered and all that, I feel like it's compromising. Like we should not compromise what we are, and that it will build its own clientele, and that's okay too. You know, like that's okay. I don't know if I'm answering like, or I'm going too far out or so or what.
No, I get
Please guide me because I'm yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. So, I mean, one of the things that you said was that your work is too black, right? And if we say, I mean, if we can agree that the majority of collectors, of galleries, of curators, of people in the art industry is generally white, with your work being too black, as you said, has that caused any like issues for you?
I find that I'm mostly collected by black collectors.
That's great.
Yeah. So like I'm mostly collected by black collectors. I have a few. I mean, like of course there are a few white collectors, few Asian, and so on. But like mostly, I would say like it's been mainly black collectors, which has been, I mean, it's something that I love, and I'm happy with that. I'm you know, so for instance, like what I'm trying to say, like I'm happy that the work actually talks to black folk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as much as it does talk to white folk time to time and so on. And some people are like, oh, Reggie, I want this piece. Like as a white person come and say, oh, Reggie, I'm willing to be on your waiting list or whatever, so on. I can see where this is going, and I love what you're talking about, the honesty of the piece. I love what you're saying, not only about like blackness, but like, because I can talk about blackness, but there's one thing about you I want people to understand about blackness, is that blackness is before everything else. If I may say, like, if I talk black, I'm talking about humanity.
Mm.
I don't know if because
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we don't really separate everything, or everyone else separates us.
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like we're in the center of it all, but everyone else chooses to say, oh, this is white, this is whatever. But we look at people as people. If you're a shitty person, you're a shitty human being. You know what I'm trying to say?
I hear you.
So I'm fortunate I've been fortunate that like I've seen that the work has spoken to the people that, you know, share a lot in common with me.
Yes.
And those that don't share, I'm very proud that it has touched them enough that they can sense the honesty, they can sense that, you know, this also talks to me as a human being.
Okay.
Not as a black, white, or whatever, it's a human being.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, with you having, as you said, like predominantly black collectors, that's great. But what I actually want to kind of touch on now is, you know, Africa and the African continent and their place in terms of the art industry. Obviously, you are from South Africa, and there's quite a lot of institutions that are already there in South Africa. But
yeah,
parts of the African continent don't have the number of institutions that South Africa does, the kind of standard of institutions that we're seeing outside of the African continent. So let's now bring this conversation, you know, within Africa, right?
Yeah.
And if we look at institutions in terms of galleries and museums, in your experience since you've been exhibiting internationally, how many outside of South Africa, how many institutions on the continent of Africa like have you been able to work with in comparison to outside of the continent?
You know, like, I would say There's been of course. I think every country that I've kind of traveled through, and I've traveled from South Africa to Egypt. So there are like galleries, institutions. I mean, I don't know if you could call a gallery an institution, but like in a sense. So they kind of are, innit? Like, but so I have traveled from Cape Town to Egypt, and I've exhibited. I've done some form or another of art in each country. Let me say, but there is definitely a lack of those institutions. There is definitely a huge lack of it, but also at the same time, there's been like where those institutions are in place. I'll tell you, like I've had sold out shows, you know, and I'm not talking about like negotiated prices. I'm not talking about like half the price or whatever, so on or whatever. And people have been able to pay what those prices are, you know, like in Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, Lagos, and so on. And you know, so I think, you know, like those artists, so there is definitely a lack of, let me say, to answer your question, there is a lack.
Yeah, you know, in you know, stating that there is a lack of, I'm not trying to allude to the fact that there aren't any and that there aren't collectors and there isn't the wealth in which to kind of tap into the art market, which has generally kind of been a space that can sometimes only favor those who have a lot more money, especially looking at Europe and the US. I just want to know, like, what is there at the moment? Because there is a lack, as you've discussed, and as a consequence, you yourself are actually building some part of an institution, right, in Tanzania, which is, I guess, why I kind of brought you into this chat, you and Kaloki. So, yes, tell us about what you are building in Zanzibar and why you chose to do that there in Zanzibar.
So for me, so it comes back down to my trip across the continent. So as I traveled across the continent, and you know, in each country I traveled, and I was like, wow, you know, how about like it'd be so beautiful to do like a rail of art, like a railway line across the continent, like from Egypt down to, so whereas people go to Mecca, just imagine like South Africa to Egypt is our Mecca as black folk. But like through that, you're going through an art scene, because art talks about things that we don't really see across these countries and so on. So, but I thought, like, how about building residencies, and then you've got these artists that go on to these residencies and they swap these residencies. So like for someone who's in Sudan can go to Egypt, from someone who's in Egypt can go to Sudan, someone who's in Sudan can go to Ethiopia, and so on, all the way until the continent. Like they go through this like cycle. But also you get guests coming through from all over the world that you know. And I thought about like, I need to find spaces where they'll be able to be, they'll be open to something like that. And I was lucky enough to get to Zanzibar, and I realized, wow, you know, Zanzibar is open to something like that. Initially I started off in Malawi, and I'd gotten a space in a land on a mountaintop, and beautiful, next to a dam and so on, you know, on a mountaintop. And unfortunately the government changed, and so many things got complicated. But as I traveled, and I was like, I want to do these across the continent. So you'd go from south to the north and north to the south. And I started in Zanzibar, and I was like, wow, by the ocean. Wow, creating by the ocean, that, you know, you're connecting to nature, you're connecting to something, which is something that I've been able to do, you know. And by the way, nature speaks. You know, nature speaks, and if you can silence everything around you, you can hear that. So, and Zanzibar was that for me. I was able to silence the noise Yes, I'm able to do a party there and there, but like I'm able to silence the noise, and then I'm able to look at the ocean, and the ocean speaks to me. And I'm able to look at the tree, and I'm like, I'm down to it, and I hear it, and then I'm like, and then I pour that back onto the canvas, and I'm like, I would love this for it to be for everyone across, like the world to experience and come. And then from there, I want to be able to move on to maybe Kenya. I want to get to Kenya and then do that too. And then, my good friend Kaloki, I'm able to go to his residency there, and then work from his space. Totally different energy, totally different vibe, but like still, there's no distractions, as we say. And yeah, so that has been the heart of it. But also at the same time, I wanted to teach the African philosophy of, in those spaces, I don't want to trade money. I want to trade, if you're gonna, if you're gonna be getting something, I want to be trade Ubuntu. I want the heart of the space to be about Ubuntu. Like I want you to come to a space and you've got a brother, but you don't know who your brother is. You don't know, what it's, but you've got someone, you've got a sister, but you don't know who your sister is. So I want to be able to build a space where you feel safe as a Black person, as an artist. So an artist can be a white, Black, whatever. But first of all, like as a Black person, I want to be in the continent to be safe. I want you to know that, like, like this is home. And then secondly, I want every artist to know this is a safe space. So even at my residency right now, that is being built currently, and that's what I want to be. I want you to walk in and that your money is not any good there. I want you to know that, like, So yeah, in a nutshell.
Yeah. I love that. I was listening because I've been thinking about this idea of this African-centered, Black-led, whatever, sustainable art ecosystem, and then trying to have different ways of envisioning what it might look like. And when you're talking, you gave me a very like visceral kind of like visual image of what it could be like. This space which was African-centered, right? The art that you're talking about, like people coming to the continent, they're creating in the continent, they're being inspired by the continent. And as you mentioned, your space in Tanzania, and then from there they could go to another location. And you mentioned Kenya, which is the perfect time to bring in Kaloki, because Kaloki is building his art residency space in Nairobi. So we're going to bring him into the chat so he can introduce himself. Hey, Kaloki.
Hey, hello, hi.
You got home safely?
I did. Yeah, it was a long drive, but
yes. We're happy to have you here. So we kind of started chatting, and you came in at the perfect moment because Reggie had just told the family about, your residency space that you're going to be opening in Nairobi, and I'm really happy that I'm going to be able to be there at the launch, which I'm excited about. Before we get into that, just introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What's your experience in the art world?
My name is Kaloki Nyamai. I'm an artist, painter. Yeah.
I first saw your work in Accra, Ghana, at Gallery 1957. Yeah. So you did residency there. In Accra.
Did. Yes.
How did that experience inspire what you're doing now with building, the library, the residency space?
I used to have a residency space because my studio, on the other side, our 2-bedroom on the other side of my studio, and I will host artists there. And so my idea was to start a mentorship program where getting a little bit established artists who've actually done quite amazing stuff around the world, and getting an artist in Kenya who's actually not known, nobody knows about them, but they are fantastic, and having them to stay in one place for for a month or two, and then just doing the exchange, and then so the artist who's coming from Kenya will learn so much from the artist who's been doing things around the world, whether the person who is doing things is Kenyan or Tanzania or anyone around the place. But the other artist is the one that's supposed to benefit so much because he's not known, nobody knows about them. So I'm trying to, because it's something I was looking at, and I was wondering, I kept on asking myself, what did I miss? And what I felt like lacked was just that support system. And so I realized the only thing I decided to create a space where I would have wished to go to. And so this space is what I created. So I wanted someone to get a place where I can get mentorship program, but not through mentorship, not just through learning, but through seeing and through conversations. Because with the residency that I've gone through, I think the most beautiful thing is the person that you're doing the residency with, because that exchange of their experiences and their approach on art and their conversation with different people, that has really also made me look at the residency in a different form, or look at my career in a different form. So the benefits that I've got from that, I really wanted also for the benefits to happen in this place. And when I thought about residency, and I was like, what is the purpose of the residency? For me, the main purpose of the residency was not just a residency, but a mentorship program kind of residency. Because if I have a residency of people from a different country, then what are my country benefiting from? So I wanted more so a residency for people from my society, people from my country too, and people also from East Africa. So highest percentage will be Kenyans, and then the other percentage of East Africa as I continue. But these will be mostly not known artists that nobody knows about, and then the other artists will be probably artists that people are familiar with. Yes.
Brilliant. Do you know what? Listening to both of you speak makes me so proud to be African. But it's also very in line with what I've experienced living in Accra and working with the art scene there in terms of community. And then actually in the diaspora, you know, I spent a lot of I was born in London, and you know, I know that art scene very well, and I've spent some time in the US, and there was like a big community kind of spirit amongst that. But especially like when you're on the continent in Accra, everyone has a mentor. And what you're talking about, Kaloki in Nairobi, also reminds me of the work that Michael Armitage is doing there, and the work that not that he's just done in Nairobi, but he's taken that same work outside internationally. So, you know, he's been able to exhibit in, you know, institutions like White Cube in London, but he's also brought in artists from the African continent who aren't well known, and to kind of create a group show with them in order to kind of raise their profile. And that's kind 100%. Of like explaining what you're trying to do is someone who's not so well known with someone who's got more notoriety or more exposure. And bring them together to kind of
learn from each other.
So, you know, I want to kind of bring the diaspora into this conversation because, you know, what you're talking about with your residency spaces and these institutions you're building the African continent. How do you see that creating a relationship with the diaspora, with, you know, those of African descent living in Europe and America?
So exactly, this is exactly what's happening. So people in diaspora who are making their moves there, it will be quite exciting for them also to come and have this residency where they will be with artists who haven't been who haven't traveled as much and they haven't done as much shows, and they have confidence. Probably they don't have so much confidence. So it will be interesting for them to to come to one place. Like the other artists, like most of the artists like who are coming for the residency, who signed up to come for the residency, who from the diaspora, most of them, like all of them are actually African American, African French, African. So it's all of them. So, and others others are living also in Africa, and for them they're doing amazing stuff in what they're doing. So through that, I think it's already happening. So it is actually happening. So that's actually what I'm doing. Yes. Yes. So that's happening. Yeah.
I love that, because that the African-centered kind of ecosystem, it has to start in the space. It has to start on the continent.
Yeah.
And you guys
Exactly.
are building that institutions. You have them, the residencies. So that's producing artists. But Reggie, I'm going to bring this question to you, because I want to move away from artists, because the ecosystem is more than just artists, right?
Yeah.
We've got our curators, our collectors, our art dealers, gallery owners. So we've spoken a little bit about collectors, but Reggie, I want to touch on the conversation around curators. Your experience, what kind of curators have you worked with, and what do you feel are the benefits of working with a curator who is of African descent?
I think it's like it changes the game. It changes the game a lot, because to be honest with you, as an African, working with someone who understands what African is, and the honesty, like I don't want to point fingers and say like some of my shows could have been whatever, so on or whatever, but like I found like working with someone who understands what the heart of my message is, someone who understands what I'm all about, and possibly what I've gone through to even get to the point to talk about what I'm talking about. To get to the point where I remember like I've done something in Europe, and someone said, Reggie, stop talking this black. Someone once said this to me, and they were of course white, and they're like, the world's not really, they were like, but that is my experience. You know what I'm trying to say? That is my background. I'm black, and this is the black background. So they were like, stop talking. Like black, pro-black, attacking people like people could be this and that. I got it, and then but like a black African curator, whether it be like, remember there is, coming from South Africa, there is white African curators, but I'm saying, so we've got to be like, also that's the truth, that's what's there for me, that's my world. And but I think empathy is the key to it. I think a curator that has got empathy to understanding where the artist is coming from and what they're trying to say, and what they may not be saying, and probably saying to them, maybe you could say this better this way or that way or whatever, so on. It makes a huge difference, because you're working with this person. You're not working with them, working with them. You're working with them. They're like it's such a, you're no longer a loner. You're like, I'm on a journey with this person. Yeah. I'm on a journey with this curator, and I get on a call with this curator, and I'm like, this is where I'm feeling like this is not represented well. This could be said this, and they're like, no, Reggie, this is oversaid now. Or Reggie, this could be subtle about this, or Reggie, be that. You know what I'm saying? Like it makes a huge difference, and curators are just like, curators play a huge part. And this is where I say, I love the honesty from the curators. Don't be taken in by I've spoken to you a lot about this. Like, don't be taken in about the clout.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I find curators all about a hype. Like, let's be about, like, I would love curators to be about honesty. You know, like, art is life. Art is the soul. It cannot be anything else. It's not something like a phone that can be, oh, this is the latest thing, this is the whatever song. No, it's life and death kind of thing, you know. And I want curators to be that sensitive. I love curators to be that deep, in a sense that, like, you know, I've sensed this a lot. Yeah. And anyway, yeah, I have to almost censor myself because.
Reggie, I was taking notes. As a curator myself.
No. It's not that I'm talking you, because I think you're brilliant. Very brilliant curator. Like, you know, yeah.
No, I hear what you're saying. And you know, I really loved that kind of analogy that you have around, you know, this. They're not working together; they're walking together. You know, a good relationship between artist and curator makes all the difference in terms of being able to have the message interpreted correctly. Kaloki, I want to open up a conversation with you around, I guess, more the education side of art, in terms of the learning about art and art history, because I know part of, you're going to have a residency space, or you have one, but there's also going to be a library. Is that correct?
There will be a library, is a different building, so that will be totally separate from because there are 3 projects that are going to be on board. So
Okay.
one of the project will be the residency, which I'm launching in few weeks, or maybe in 2 weeks or something. Yeah, and then after.
Kaloki, how come I didn't get the invite, man? Where's my invite? Where's my invite, brother?
Yeah.
Where's my invite, brother? I'm sorry, I'm just playing, brother.
Yeah.
Kaloki, I do want to ask you about the library projects, because for me, when I think about a library, it's a place where I'm going to learn, right? So there's the education element of this, and I'm also an educator. So why did you feel it was necessary to have a library built there in Nairobi?
You know, one thing is, yes, we'll do. I've done the art residency, but the other thing is, this library idea came when I was trying to do research, and you know, most of the research you do, probably you will only go online, then you will try to access books which are not accessible. So you try and find books you cannot, because not all the informations are not online. So some of them you find books that are actually not published online. And I thought, even in institutions that we have that are actually trying to push art, like one of it is Kenyatta University, where they're doing art, and we have BIFA, where they're doing art, but their library are not, they don't have a proper library that's dedicated to art. And then even when you look, if you go to the National Library, maybe you find 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 books about art. And also in school, not so many books about art. And so I was like, for you to introduce, or for the other thing is for people to learn more about art. For those who are not familiar with, they can be able to access that. For those artists who are trying to do research, they can actually access that. For those who are institutions right now starting to be artists and want to pursue art, they can also come and also access that. For the kids who like interested in doing art, or just who are curious about art, or spaces where they can just do few art practices with some artists, they can also access that. And so this space is a space where people, it will be a public space where people can access and learn more about art. So it will be a full dedicated art library, not design, just a full dedicated art library, which it's going to be 2 floors just with books. And so that is exactly what I was thinking about. And also I was thinking, like writers also, when they want to launch their books, there are not so many places that writers can launch their books, which they can actually launch it there. There's a space where they can launch, or maybe spoken word artists. They always do it in bars and open spaces, but also they can even do it there. So it is a space where it's more of research. They can do research, learn in that space. So that was the idea of the library mainly.
Amazing.
Yes.
I have another question to probe a little bit deeper about this library. Library really excites me. The idea of a library that is dedicated to art. Now, what kind of books do you already have, or are you sourcing? What kind of art are people going to be able to research about in your library?
So they will be able to research, because there will be a room where it will be dedicated for documentaries, or so films and documentaries about whether it's artists, whether it's different artists, different research about art and stuff like that. They will be in one room, and then the rest of the rooms will be books. So for me, I have few books, not so many, but the idea was, after I build a building, in which many people and different institutions are going to send me books, and everyone is like proposing to send books. So for me, I need everything to be formed, and then just make a book bank that everyone now can dedicate to that. So I have quite a number of people sending me books, which is amazing. I just need to finish with what I'm doing now, and then just make sure my concentration go on this side. So yes, so that is, yes.
That's exciting. That's exciting as an educator, and me kind of knowing in terms of books that we have like internationally written about artists. I know there's probably a higher percentage of books written about artists that are non-African. How are you going to kind of create a level of balance within your space so that there's enough presence of African?
I will try to do that. That one I can't promise, because I don't know how much book I can access for African writers and African, but most of them are probably written about Africa by different people, not African. I cannot do that. But the other section which I am doing now contributes to that again, because it will be like a unit. So the other one that I'm building, which I won't be building, we just finished. It's just I need to make the toilet and paint the whole space. So it's and that one, it's a writer's residency. That one I don't need to do so much, and I'm not actually building it. It's already there, and so there will be. I will not be running it at all, but a friend of mine will be doing it, and she will be the one like bringing the artists and bringing the writers and stuff like that. So she will handle that. For me, for me, I just want to make this other thing going. She will deal with that part, and for me, it's just to make sure that all is okay, everything is sorted, and then that's it. And then she takes over from that. She will invite writers, and she was telling me something interesting, and I was like, awesome, because she has a group of writers. She's well established in her career, and she has a group of writer and publishers who are thinking of writing more about African artists. And I was like, okay, that is cool, but I don't know how she will manage to connect what she does, but I thought it was quite important to have a space for writers and at least to add to the other, because the main thing that I really wanted from the beginning, from years, was the library and the artist residency. Much later is when I started thinking about the writer's residency, but that one is just, I'm reducing the energy on that one because I don't want to split my brain into pieces. So that one should definitely be in charge of that. For me, it's just make sure that the building is here, the toilets are working, the beds are nice, there's a space for writing, so which is good. Yeah.
Amazing, because I came into this thinking about like, how do we create this ecosystem, and it's there, already there. And if I'm thinking about, Yinka Shonabari just opened up Gas Foundation, touched on Michael Armitage, and Walker just launched his residency space, and he hasn't made this so public, but there's also writers' residency happening there. We've got Reggie Botre opening his space, Nidis and Ghana. So it's on the rise, and that's really, really exciting.
Exactly. So when we're now talking about more books about Africans rewriting their story, this is where it's starting. But first, we'll have what we have, and then that will come much later. When now everything right now with people, this ecosystem will make sure that everything grows, and there will be more of that. So, which is amazing, because the idea is, I think, is I do something, someone else 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 do something. Before we know it, there's a strong foundation that cannot be uprooted. Because it is so funny when you look at history of art, you will actually come and realize that Africa, when it comes to bronze, Nigeria, Benin was like the biggest and almost the first one who were doing bronze, but they're nowhere to be talked about. So it's just people talk about other people, but they don't concentrate on the conversation about that. They will just mention one thing and then disappear. And then they will never talk about the school that was in Sudan. They won't talk about it. So, but now within these conversations, there's so many things that are going to be talked about, because so
go on, finish your sentence. Oh, you there?
Okay. Yes.
You're right.
So it's I'm to be honest, I'm really, really excited, because I have been blessed, and I am so happy that I have friends who are very supportive, and I have and I'm so blessed. And so I was like, why not do this when I can? Probably there will be some time where I won't have the energy to do that. Maybe right now everyone is like, you're sick, you have to prepare for the exhibitions which are waiting for you. It's part exhibition, you're still doing this. Where do you get the time? I'm like, I feel I need to do it now and finish this, and then but it's good, it's amazing. I love what's happening, and I'm excited. Yes.
And I love it too. And just to kind of round up the conversation before I allow you both to give some final words, is and just let the family know about the next conversation, which is actually going to be live in Atlanta. We're very much focused here with YouTube, like being based in Africa, like the African kind of element of it, the center. And in the next conversation, we're going to be looking more at like diaspora. So speaking to members of the art industry who are based in the US, and seeing, how we bridge what sometimes is a gap, and how we create this more of a level of unity for this ecosystem, whereby, it's running on the continent, in the continent, by those in the continent, but also those in the diaspora, in the Caribbean also. Because sometimes when we talk about diaspora, we're always mentioning the UK, the US, other parts of Europe, but the Caribbean islands are very much part of us. So we got to make sure to make notice and mention them as well. There's so many great institutions in the Caribbean that I have been able to go out and visit. And so I feel like collaborations between, you know, like what you're doing, Kaloki, what you're doing, Reggie, and then also what other people are doing in the Caribbean, it's going to be amazing, right? So, you know, we are coming towards the end of this conversation, and I'm so happy that I managed to bring both of you together on this call to really share with the people what you're doing, and then to be able to highlight what everyone else is doing. And, you know, I was quite intentional with this in making sure that, you know, I brought in the voices from outside of West Africa, because I think sometimes internationally, their voice can be very loud, which isn't the problem. I'm West African too, but it's nice to get a bit of East Africa and South Africa in the conversation. So yeah, thank you both for your contributions to the discussion, and for what you're doing for the art world, you know, and everyone's that is going to come after you. So Reggie, I'm going to allow you to kind of take the floor. Any last thoughts? Do you want to let people know where they can see you next, what's coming up, when they can come to Zanzibar? I want to know when I can come to Zanzibar. So please.
So yeah. I mean, I've got. It's a lot, isn't it? Like, I'm just trying to cut down to the main pieces, but I think my residency will be, one building is done now, so there's 5 more to go. But like now, I've got the gist of things. Like I've just been working with the builders in the last week since I came back from Europe, and I think the other buildings will be done by October. So there's 5 more. But like what Kaloki said, there's going to be like with the writers and but I want to be able to say like, you know, like the residency is going to offer writers, it's going to offer dancers, it's going to offer musicians, we're going to have music studios in their space. We're going to have, you know, like dancing studio, writers, like just like that. And you know, Kaloki is my good friend, and I'm happy to hear some of the things that he mentioned, because that way there's synergy. So we'll be able to bounce off each other. And being in Zanzibar and him being in Nairobi, it's just like a flight away, like a 30-minute flight away, literally. So we'll be able to, you know, get people across. That's beautiful. And, you know, like what's coming, like, I think what's coming for me in general is, I think my next works and my next shows and stuff, like I want to really get into the heart of, you know, actually not even my works. I think for us, you know, we spoke about the ecosystem of African-centered, Black-led art ecosystem. And I think the idea should be, the center of it all is, if we don't talk about if we don't get together and talk about our work and what we're doing, no one else is going to, you know, no one else is talking about it. Like everyone else is benefiting from it, but we're not talking about it. So I think I call it radical Ubuntu, you know, so there's just Ubuntu, and then so I want to talk about radical Ubuntu, which is a philosophy now that is radical about being kind to ourselves. It's being it's being radical about us giving ourselves first chance, first opportunity. It's being radical about us climbing the ladder of capitalism and then coming back down and saying, I need to bring up other people, like what Kaloki mentioned. That's where I want to, that's what I'm going to be really about. It's about radical Ubuntu, and that's what's coming now from me. And it's this philosophy, this new thing that I feel I need to share. I feel like that's where my soul is leading me to. And I think the residency will be a good platform to talk about it. I think I would like it to spread to Kalokis and whoever so on in the diaspora to talk about this. Like we are all we got. We are all we got. And I'm tired of getting to a space and I feel like I don't belong and so on and everywhere else. I think let's create our own spaces. Let's own our own spaces. Let's own Africa. Let's make it great. You know, let's make Africa great again.
Hey, I think someone's started some campaign there. I don't know. What are you running for?
No. What I'm just saying is to each individual. Like I want to say, like, blackness is great. Let's own it. Let's own it. Let's, you know, yeah, that's all I have to say. Sorry, Kaloki, I've taken some of your time.
That's okay. Kaloki, last words.
Yeah.
What's next for you?
What's next for me? It's quite a bit. So I on the shows or
just something brief. Why don't you tell us about when is the opening? Because it's the end of March, right? What's the date?
So for the residency is the end of this month on the 31st, and that's for the residency. The show, I have one show in Berlin next month, and then another show in Switzerland. I'm doing the Unlimited in Basel, so that will be in Switzerland, and I have a museum show in Switzerland also, and I have another solo in LA. So the others have pushed it to the next. Yeah, so it's quite a lot, but I am excited. So happy. Yeah, yes, I'm just happy. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got 1 minute left. You see, I can see the countdown telling me we've got 1 minute left in this chat. Okay. I can see you are very busy, Kaloki. I will be out there for the launch of your residency, which is
100%. So much welcome.
Yes.
I'm looking forward. Yeah.
I want to say thank you to everyone, and also just to pick up ADAMA. ADAMA is definitely part of this ecosystem that we're talking about, that we want to create or are creating, is created. We just need to sustain it. And in next week's chat in Atlanta, we will talk more about this. And if there's anyone in New York City at the moment, on Tuesday, I have an exhibition opening that I've curated for Ajay Taria, who's a Ghanaian artist. So if you're around, yes, come and see us. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, your night, whatever time it is for you. So
thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, ADAMA.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome.